Okay, good evening. My name is Dr. John Foran. I'm the director of Miami University's Menard Family Center for Democracy. And on behalf of the university and our fellow sponsors for tonight's event, the Lakota District Parents Council and the Westchester Liberty Chamber Alliance, it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's Meet the Candidates Forum, featuring all 8 of the certified candidates running this year for seats on the Lakota Board of Education. Joining us tonight are, in alphabetical order, Mr. Isaac Oddie, Mrs. Darby Bodie, Ms. Kelly Casper, Ms. Kelly Chaussee, Mr. Douglas Horton, Mr. Russ Logis, Mr. Michael Pearl, and Ms. Vanessa Wells. I'd like to thank all of the candidates for joining us for tonight's evening. And as for how the evening will play out in terms of format, we'll begin shortly with opening statements of up to 2 minutes each from all 8 candidates, who will be speaking in alphabetical order by last name. After that, we'll move directly into questions then, which none of the candidates in tonight's forum have seen in advance. We will range pretty broadly across a wide range of topics for about an hour. We'll then conclude with closing statements by each of the candidates, up to 1 minute each, and those will be delivered in reverse alphabetical order. Because of both the number of candidates that we have running for these positions and the wide range of issues that I hope we'll touch on this evening, all of the candidates have agreed to adhere to time limits on their answers. And I thank each of them for adhering to those rules so that we can have a productive, informative, and engaging discussion tonight. With all of that said, let us turn now to our candidates' opening statements, up to 2 minutes each. And as I said, they'll be delivered in alphabetical order. And so accordingly, we'll begin with Mr. Isaac Oddie, who has 2 minutes.
Thank you for doing this. Parents of Lakota School kids, thank you so much. This is my opportunity to meet those of you that I've not been able to meet. And I also believe that I'll still be able to meet some other people. This is very, very important to me that I am running for Lakota School District. I'm very proud. Again, my name is Isaac Oddie. I'm running for this because now is the time for us to stand against harmful ideologies and divisive politics being directed at our schools and our children and our families. It's time for us to focus on students' achievement, fiscal responsibility, transparency, and accountability. In my personal observation, I've realized that our students' grades are going down. The reason being that there has been a lot of distractions on things that never matter, things that are not important. Our research shows that the grades for our kids is lower than the grades colleges and universities need to issue admissions to our kids. This has never been like that before. I'm an immigrant. I came here 18 years ago. 3 of my kids graduated from this same school district. All of them got admission immediately, and 2 have graduated from university and also have master's degree because they were prepared. Their attention was on education, opportunity that was there, they grasped it, and they took it and they ran with it. My daughter is still going through the process of graduating because of COVID. She has not been able to graduate. She has 1 more semester to graduate. Now, the way our kids are going, we not be able to give them the future that you and I got. So that is the reason why I'm running. I am against school restoring and progressive sex education. Vote for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Bodie?
Hi, thank you so much for having this forum. My name is Darby Bodie. I am married to a Marine, and we have been together for 17 years, or married for 17 years. We have 4 children together, one of which attended the East Freshman Campus last year. I have been volunteering in the community since I was 13 and went to Jamaica on a mission trip. I have lived in 3 additional states and been to 4 additional countries, all of which I have volunteered in. And I am volunteering to run for the Lakota School Board for 3 reasons. First, I want to keep our children safe and free from destructive ideologies that are being implemented throughout the country. Second, I want to ensure that academic achievement is the district's top priority. And third, I want to teach our children to love America as champions of liberty. I have been in the business industry for over 20 years. I've been in management for 17 of those years. One of my responsibilities was ensuring that we fell in line with the company's profit and loss and exceeded them. And I was a top performer in all of my career. I also have been working with much of which is transferable to the school board. I have been working with Linda O'Connor. I've been taking classes online through Zoom. And I've also been working with people in the community to understand the fundamentals of the school board operations and finances. I also understand that it is important to get involved in the local community and school district. And, I will work with, when I am on the board, I will work with integrity, transparency, and ensure that academics is our top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Casper?
Thank you and good evening. I'd like to thank DPC, Miami, and the Chamber for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Kelly Casper, and I'm currently finishing up my first term on the board. I've been in the district for 23 years with my husband, Darren, and both of our children are Lakota East grads. I'm a proud graduate of Cincinnati Public Schools and UC. I spent several years teaching, and I also have experience in the corporate world of retailing. I was fortunate enough to be able to stay home and volunteer in the district when my children were young. Being involved with parent organizations at several schools and volunteering with the Boys and Girls Club and the Lakota Optimist Club has given me the opportunity to meet many great Lakota families and realize what great things we have in our district. I consider it a very important part of my position on the board to be active, engaged community member by attending events in the district and throughout our community. While many things have changed since I decided to run back in 2017, my motivation for being on the board and serving Lakota families hasn't changed. Through my commitment to increasing student opportunities and working with fellow board members and the administrative team, I have shown that my priority is and always will be all Lakota students. Under the guidance of the superintendent and treasurer, we've expanded the offerings we provide while being responsible taxpayer dollars. All-day kindergarten, expanded technology, freshman busing, and the Cyber Academy are just a few examples. Focusing on what is best for all Lakota students, families, and the community we serve helps me make decisions that will ensure that Lakota is moving in the right direction and continues to be a district that we can all be proud of. Serving on the board has certainly had its challenges, especially over the last 18 months, but I firmly believe that putting in the work as a board member is worth it. I'm committed to all stakeholders in the district, and with your support on November 2nd, I would be honored to continue serving our community and do my part to keep Lakota strong.
Thank you very much. Ms. Chaussee?
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. Hi, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name's Karen Chaussee. I'm a mom. I'm not a politician. I am from a small town in Montreal, Canada, so I'm French Canadian. I've also lived in Singapore where I attended multicultural schools. And now I live in Westchester with my husband and my two kids. I believe that politics has no room on the school board. I don't care if you are endorsed by Republicans or Democrats. I'm here to take a spot on the board. I also believe that we need to be responsible with our tax dollars. Our community needs change and unity. We need to respect each other's differences and learn to appreciate our differences and individualities. We are not all the same, and that is okay. My vision for Lakota is embracing these differences in our large community. We may not always agree, but we are stronger if we are united. I'm running for school board because our children need help. I believe in unity. Lakota is as diverse as any community. Our children merely need to be taught math, language arts, science, and history. Throw in the golden rule of treat each other or treat others as you'd like to be treated, and we'll free them from the political agenda. And that's all I got.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Mr. Loges?
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me now? Good evening. I'm Russ Loges, and I'm a proud Lakota dad. I'm very invested. I have two children in the district, and I coach many different children, just very invested in the young people's success. I've owned my own business, so I've had experience making payroll. I understand what that's like to manage a budget. I am not a politician. I think that's a theme. I think that's an important point for the school board, is that we don't take political sides. I'm also a nurse. I think that's been maybe some benefit in these current times. And let's see, I believe in traditional values, fiscal responsibility, equal opportunity, transparency, and accountability. What I believe about Lakota is that the parents, the teachers, the coaches, and students are what makes the Lakota School District great and will continue to. And if elected, I promise to advocate for all Lakota students. I want to emphasize that I would advocate for all Lakota students. And the reason for this, the reason I'm getting involved, is I think we need to put the focus back on the education. I think many of us are, spent the last 2 years going back and forth about masks and vaccines, and I'd really like to get back to just focusing on our students' education. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Pearl.
I think you skipped Mr. Horton. Is that okay? You want to still go with me first? Or you want to go with him?
I'm so sorry about
That's what I thought. That caught me off guard a little bit.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, the alphabet is apparently a challenge for me, but I apologize. Can we circle back to Mr. Horton? Sorry about that.
If you want me to go now, that's fine. Good evening. My name is Douglas Horton. I'm running for the Lakota Local School Boards. Thank you to the DPC and the Westchester Chamber, and Dr. Foran, thank you for moderating tonight. Really appreciate your help and letting us share our views. Let me share with you my journey with the district. So about a decade ago, my family moved to Lakota, and it was not the destination district it is today. Its finances were in shambles, services, classes, teachers had been cut, and its future was so uncertain that my daughter, when she was in preschool, was one of only 2 or 3 kids in the entire preschool who decided to enroll in Lakota. Everyone else took their kids and ran away from the district. But not me, not my family. Instead, we got involved. We started volunteering. We volunteered at every PTSO and that are in the buildings that my children have attended. My wife has been Girl Scout leader. I'm Cub Master for Cub Scout Pack 940. And for the past 8 years, I've been a member of the District Parent Council, where I've worked with various superintendents and various board members over the years to increase the educational outcomes for our children. Professionally, I'm a brand builder at P&G. I work across many multi-billion-dollar brands, including Crest, Gillette, Tide, and I lead their sports marketing. So I understand complex organizations, sizable organizations, and how to lead those. And I have a decade of leading profitable growth and delivering the bottom line at the same time. At the end of the day, I stand for students, teachers, and taxpayers. And I know that together we can do all 3 of those. They're not mutually exclusive. So please vote for Douglas Horton on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm studying the alphabet. I believe next is Mr. Pearl. So thank you.
You're correct. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Dr. Foran, for hosting this tonight, and Lakota DPC and Westchester Chamber. My name is Michael Pearl, and I'm asking for your vote for November 2nd to maintain my seat on the Lakota School Board, which I was appointed to just over a year ago. From the moment we stepped into the district about 12 years ago, we were accepted and supported from the start. And that's the main reason why I'm running for the Lakota School Board, is because I want other kids and families to have the same experiences we have. And for my kids, I want their kids to receive the quality education just like my kids have. May I add that both my kids graduated from Lakota East. I always say Westsiders don't judge me. I love Lakota East and West. But I'm running because I care about this district. I don't have an agenda. I'm not after anything or anyone. I want us to remain at the top of the state, and if not the country, in every aspect of our schools. And I think it's important that we maintain that by supporting kids no matter what. My priorities will be to, 1, make sure that we're providing the best education possible. And we want to do that in a safe environment. Number 2, I want us to get back into the work of looking at our facilities. We have 23 schools, our biggest financial asset that we have. And I want to make sure that we're looking at that so that we can go back and look at seeing what schools need to be replaced and some even renovated. And we want to do that in a fiscally responsible way. Also, I want to make sure that we are embracing our diversity. We are a diverse district. We're more diverse than we were when I moved in the district 12 years ago. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and that ought to be celebrated. No matter what you look like, no matter where you came from, no matter your sexual identity, no matter your sexual preference, none of that really matters. We want to make sure that every kid comes into the district, comes into their school ready to learn. My name is Michael Pearl, and I hope to share more with you while I should remain on this Lakota School Board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ms. Wells.
Okay. Hi, my name is Vanessa Wells. I just want to take a second to thank all of you for putting this together and to thank all of the parents and community members that are out there watching. I'm really glad. I wish we could have all met face to face. I was born in a small town in Pennsylvania, and immediately after I graduated, I went into the United States Air Force active duty and lived in Europe for the first 4 years. When I came back to the United States, I moved to Ohio and met my husband. And so now we have a 13-year-old daughter who goes to Lakota. She loves it. She's very happy to be back in school this year. Sorry. And we also have our furry child. He's our dog. So we moved here specifically for the Lakota School District because we were hearing great things about it. And in the time we've been here, we've seen those great things. We've seen the good, the bad, and I think as most of us would agree during COVID, the ugly. But I truly believe that it's important that we get new, fresh ideas and creative minds on the school board to help solve problems, to make sure that different voices are being heard. And that's what's going to be vital for our school district to grow. Fiscal responsibility, student achievements, removing politics from school, and transparency and accountability are just some of the reasons that I'm running for the school board. I've come to love this community, our schools, our teachers, the friends that we've made here have become family, and I really would love to just give back to this community and serve on the Lakota School Board. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I'd like us to just move on to questions then, if we can. According to the rules for the forum, we will address all of the questions to every candidate ultimately. So, with 8 candidates that, it may take us a while to get through some questions, but that's okay. We'll actually rotate the order in which I'll ask the candidates to answer the questions. And again, I've already shown the alphabets, not my thing apparently, but wherever we start, so I'll ask one person to start, and then if we can move sort of alphabetically from there, if everybody's okay with that. And questions will be 1 minute or 2 minutes. We'll actually start with a 1 minute question. And before we start that, let me just also thank all of the community residents who submitted questions through the DPC Thought Exchange. We had well over 200 questions submitted that were incredibly helpful in formulating the questions for tonight. Actually, every one of the questions that we'll be talking about came in some way from that list. And there are basically 2 kinds of questions there, and quite a few of them are about specific policies, and we'll come to that. But I'd like to start actually by talking a little bit more broadly about how each of you view the proper role of the Board of Education, how the board relates to other policymakers and community leaders, and generally what you think the priorities ought to be for the board over the next 4 years. So in that general vein, let me start with this question basically, and it's about the relationship of the proper relationship of the Board of Education to other constituencies in the community: school administrators, teachers, educators in the building, staff, families. I'd like you to talk a little bit about what you see as the appropriate role of the school board ultimately in managing or interacting on a day-to-day basis with our schools. Specifically, could you explain your understanding of what you think the relationship ought to be between the board and the superintendent, for instance, the board and the treasurer, and beyond that, other professionals who work in the central office, teachers in the building? How do you plan as a board member to interact with these various groups on a day-to-day basis? For instance, if a parent, and this is directly out of the Thought Exchange questions, if a parent contacted you directly to speak about a concern that parent has with a child, how would you respond? So there's a whole lot in that question. So can you answer it all in 1 minute, please? And can we, which is unreasonable, I totally realize. Could we start with Mr. Horton and then sort of move alphabetically and then circle back around? How's that sound?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a lot in 1 minute. I think, let me first state that the role of the board is to set the vision for the district and then hire the superintendent and the treasurer to help execute that vision and execute the policy that the board creates to do that. And my dog agrees with that assessment. What I'll say is, directly, I want to make sure to understand what happens, how do we interact with the broader educational structure of the district. So if a parent comes with a concern, I would definitely take it seriously. My first step would be to go to Matt Miller because he's overall responsible for the execution of the policies. And so he would then do his job, which is to actually assess what the situation is, what the reality is, what the steps are that needs to be taken to address it. And then I would expect him to report back to us as to how that situation was alleviated or what other steps might need to be taken.
Thank you very much. Mr. Loges?
Yeah, hi. So my opinion on that is that we would be community representatives. We represent those people who vote us into this position. I wouldn't take that lightly. The board would then define a mission or our goals, and we would work with the superintendent to implement those. I do think it's important that the board remain professional and have professional boundaries with the administration. And that would be my answer.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pearl.
Thank you. The main role of the school board is to hire and evaluate the district superintendent and treasurer and to set policies. I like to give the illustration. I heard it in one of the trainings that I went to. The school board, really, their job is to clear the runway so that Matt and Jenny, our superintendent and treasurer, can fly the plane of the district itself. Regarding if a parent or a teacher even comes to me with a problem or situation, I'm going to hear it. I'm going to listen. I'm not going to sway one way or another because I'm not in the building. I wasn't there for that situation, but I'm going to assure that parent or that staff person, I'm going to go to Matt, give that information to Matt, ask him to follow up. And then what I may follow up with Matt in a couple of days to see, how that worked out, not to go back and check or anything like that, just to make sure that I was taken care of accordingly. We want to work hand in hand with everybody in our district, with all the stakeholders, with our families, our kids, our teachers, our coaches, our staff, support staff, and definitely our administrators as well. And that's what I would do as a board member.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wells.
Actually, this is a great question. When I first came to the district, I was completely unaware of what exactly the board's role was. What I've found is they are the very top liaison for the school district, but they are also the representatives for the community members. When there is an issue, I believe that it is a school board member's duty to listen, but then to guide that person to the right steps, the next steps that they should take. If it's, something that can be dealt with at building level, or if it's something that can be taken directly to Matt Miller, I think that the appropriate steps should be told to the parent. And I don't think that it's unreasonable for a school board member to check back in with the parent who contacted them, just to ask if they, how it was handled, how everything had turned out. But it's always good to have that communication between the superintendent and the board and the treasurer and the board, since we would be the ones that hire the superintendent and the treasurer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Audi.
Sorry about that. The role of the board member is to hire, to evaluate, and to make policies for the school, to guide the school in the right direction. And he or she is also the liaison between the community members and the administrators, and the superintendent and the treasurer. In my opinion, if there's any situation that's brought to me, of course, I'm going to assess how serious the situation is and ensure that the superintendent is aware and get to know immediately. And after that, follow up with the family member that brought the complaint to see if the situation has been handled or not. But I know it's going to be my responsibility to make sure that that is handled. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie.
So let me start with this. The problem I see and what most conservatives see is not an isolated situation in our schools. Our schools have become politicized to the point where they only try to defend a political position and there is no search for the truth. Let me give you a perfect example of this. I asked for information the school used to determine a mask policy. The report in and of itself is a perfect example and proof of bias from the school. There is a wealth of data from some of the most prestigious universities and research institutions in the world that demonstrates masks do little to nothing to stop the spread of COVID. I'm looking at more than a dozen of them right now, and the school doesn't use a single one of them in their analysis for preparation for the mask policy. Furthermore, they didn't even touch on the serious damage the masks do to our children. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Casper.
Sorry, my fingers were not acting properly. The role of a school board member is to, as Mr. Pearl said, to hire and evaluate the superintendent and treasurer and to set policy. We are not involved in the every day-to-day management positions. That's why you have a superintendent and treasurer. The relationship between the superintendent and the treasurer and the board, plus certain personnel in the central office, is imperative. You have to have open communication and you have to have a relationship. As far as a parent coming to me, if a parent came to me with a problem, I would direct them back to their principal. We have a chain of command in the district. They need to start with the teacher or the principal and work their way through the chain of command. If it gets to us because none of that has been taken care of, then there is appeals process. So it's important that they know how to follow the chain of command to get the results that they need.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Shosei.
Okay, last. I think the role of the board is to make policies, hire the superintendent and treasurer. And I believe that if there was a problem if a parent came to me with a problem, I would also ask them if they have spoken to the principal at their school, and then refer them to Matt Miller and then check back with them to make sure that their issue is handled.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to shift us to a question then also about how your own personal experiences, professional experiences, as well as family experiences, personal experiences generally, how those experiences may have prepared you to serve effectively as a board member, and how that background ultimately may inform your work on the board. For instance, could you talk about, do you have direct experience in the schools, in the school buildings as a volunteer, as a staff member, or some other on the ground experience that might shape what you do as a board member, or do you have experience working in perhaps on the board of directors of a business or a board of a community organization, that kind of thing, a situation where you've had to work collaboratively with people who may not agree with you on everything, but you have to find consensus to move forward ultimately. And how is that, what kind of experience have you had with that, and how has that prepared you to serve on the board? And related to that, because I can stuff many things into the same question and call it one question. Could you provide a specific example from your own life experience, professional or personal, where you felt a certain way about an issue, and then you worked with other people on it and discussed it and collaborated, and you changed your mind? Have you had that experience, and could you describe that specifically? So there is a whole lot of that, and I'm pretending it's one question when it's really like three, but it's all about how does your background shape what you might do? And since that's such a big question, let's go with 2 minutes each. And if we could start with Mr. Pearl and go alphabetically that way, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I have over 20 years of professional working experience working for organizations that service children. Right now, I'm the rec director of the St. Monica's Recreation Center down in Lincoln Heights, who serve about 100 kids every single day from ages 6 to 16. aside from that, and before that, I worked for a social service agency called the Wyoming Youth Services Bureau that also served kids in the Wyoming community. Along with those two jobs alone and others, in that 20 years of experience I've handled, I had to be fiscally responsible. I had to create and make my own budget, recognizing how to spend, being a good steward of the monies that I was responsible for. And I think that definitely helps me in this role of a school member, but also the experience I have with working with young people. I am passionate about young people. I think they are, I don't think I know, they are our future. And I want to do everything I can, no matter where I am, to make sure that every kid that I come in contact with has the greatest opportunity to reach full potential, no matter what. Being born without my left hand, coaches, teachers, people rallied behind me and my family to make sure that I was successful. And that's kind of what I want to do in this role and other roles that I serve. Regarding to what I've done in the school district, I've served as a coach for almost a decade, coaching at the Junior High Liberty School and also Lakota East High School. And in that realm, working with so many people and so many great families that I've come to love even to this day. It just gave me a wonderful experience about Lakota, as well as my kids participating in activities and programs themselves. Also volunteering, done a lot of volunteering in the schools, specifically in those same two buildings, but also at the Ridge and Plains Junior High when the district was doing the Be the Difference program that dealt with a lot of different issues. And so again, just getting an opportunity to meet kids and meet them where they are and just to learn more about what they go through. Actually, the example of being on the board and not getting your way, I'm running out of time, but when we had to approve and the teacher's contract this year, I thought one way, and after research and studying, working with our treasurer and Matt and the rest of the board members, I supported the vote that we ended up doing. And I love working with people. I love learning new things, and I'll continue to do that as a board member for Lakota School District. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Wells.
Thank you. So I want to start off by saying I have been in the community here since 2016 when we moved to Lakota. So since I've been there, I have volunteered within the schools. But prior to coming here, I was in the military, and you really cannot get more conflicting opinions than when you're in the military. It was, and at times it's a struggle, but whenever you really sit and listen to what people have to say, you understand them more. And I think that throughout my life, my communication skills have grown a lot. I've tried to do everything that I can to understand where someone else is coming from. And I think that that would help me greatly with other diverse opinions from the school board. And as well as parents, parents, we all care. So for one reason or another, I don't necessarily even see it as a disagreeing type of thing. What I see it as is just, we need to understand one another. And so it's really important to me to have that communication with the teachers and the school district. And I think that I would be really good at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Audi.
All right. What I know prepared me for school board is, first of all, as an immigrant, like I said before, I saw the opportunities that I met here in the United States. 3 of my children graduated from Lakota West, and they're doing very well because of the opportunity they got. I have a master's in business administration, and I work in corporate America for over 15 years. And I own my own company in oil and gas that I started 4 years right now. I am currently a board member at my church, the church that has been existing for over 95 years. And during one of our meetings, there was a decision that I was emotionally attached, that I made up my mind I was going to stand my ground. But at that meeting, I realized that I have to work corporately with others and also see have other visions that they have, perceive things the way they perceive. And I had to change my mind to vote differently from what I thought I was going to do. I have, at the moment, I am currently a prison minister, and I go to jail, Butler County Jail and Warren Correctional Institute, where I meet and mentor prisoners and I know what they have gone through in their life and how I've been able to help many of them to have a change of heart and now are better members of a society. And I've also volunteered for Habitat for Humanity for several years, where I've contributed and I gave back to the community. I believe that I'm ready and I'm prepared with all the passion that I have to help our children. Like I said in my opening statement, our grades are going down because there has been a lot of distractions. There are many unnecessary things brought into the schools that are not supposed to be there. We need to focus on math, language arts, science, and history, and guide our kids, prepare them for life after school. And that is why I am running. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Bodie.
So I have been, like I said before, I've been in retail or business for over 20 years and in management for 17 of those years. So I have managed multi-million-dollar businesses. So I have had to ensure that there's fiscal health with our company, which is part of the school board. I've also had to hire and review and unfortunately terminate people as well, which is a role of the board for the superintendent and the treasurer. And then we've also have policy and procedure that we need to make sure that we're following our policies and procedures and ensure that our staff is doing that as well. So that's what I'm bringing from retail. I've also volunteered again since I was 13. I volunteered. I went to a small school in Ohio, and I would K through 12 was in one school, so I'd volunteer for the first graders for several years in high school, and then my senior year I volunteered for the special education gym class. And then in college, I took care of a paraplegic. So I've dealt with that aspect as well. And then we were also a foster family growing up. So I've dealt with children that come from, troubled backgrounds. And I've also coached Girls on the Run. I've been a volunteer for that. And I volunteer at the church with our children. So I absolutely love children. They are our future. And I think people underestimate children and do not give them credit for how smart they are. And I know that I have what it takes to run a successful school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Casper.
Hi. Well, I am the daughter of a public school teacher. I was a teacher. I taught first and second grade. Since I have been in the community, I have been a PTA president at 4 buildings. I've served on many district committees, and I've been involved in a lot of community engagement. I worked on fundraising for the Boys and Girls Club. I'm a member of the Lakota Optimist Club. I ran the Sunday school program at a church. So like everybody sitting out there, I have a passion for children and a passion for education. There has been many times over the last 4 years on the board where we've had to have discussions, where we've had to agree to disagree, where we've had to have some compromise to make sure that we do what's best for all of our students. It's not always easy. You don't always get your way. But in the end, as long as you can look in the mirror and know that you're doing what's best for kids, that's the best way to handle your role as a board member.
Thank you. Ms. Chaussee.
I have 2 kids. So I volunteered at schools when my kids were there and helping the teachers and helping whatever the teacher needed help with the other kids. I've also volunteered in coaching soccer for my son, also helping in hosting parties at school or whatever party was happening at the time. Also with my current job, I'm managing a team of 4 individual, which isn't very big, but we all have different opinions. And if we all listen to one another and are empathetic, then we can come to a mutual agreement, even if it's agree to disagree. So that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Horton.
Thank you. Yeah, when I look back, I think most of the things that I bring to the table start with the fact that what I learned in Scouts BSA. So I'm an Eagle Scout. I learned at an early age how to lead others and to be guided by the principle of help other people at all times. And so as I've developed, I've got a master's degree in public policy. I have a master's degree in business. I've been successful at Procter & Gamble, an organization of 93,000 employees, working across multiple brands of significant scale. I've worked on public-private partnerships that work to address restoring downtown retail corridors, as well as address homeless issues in cities. And so I think what really comes to bear is I think all of us have a passion to lead this district and to help out with the district by the volunteerism. I've sat on many of the PTSO executive boards at Liberty Early Childhood, at Union, at Hopewell Hopewell Early Childhood. I think every PTSO needs more volunteers. So it's great to hear everybody volunteering in schools, and let's sign up for more jobs. But having said that, I think it's more than just desire. It's making sure that you're equipped with the right education and experience and have the right frameworks and tools to help guide the conversations. So using tools like integrative thinking, developing third ways, understanding management of organizations, and how you can actually create structures to help facilitate the conversations. Our district is at a deep divide right now. I think we've all seen that. And I think that's what I want to bring to bear is these tools that can help elicit better outcomes and help the district do community outreach and bring us back closer together. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lojas.
So first, I'd like to talk about just my volunteer time. You'll find me probably on somewhere coaching a sport at some point. I've coached probably over at least 30 different teams. I'm sure there's probably more than that here in Lakota with the Thunderbirds or the March Madness tournament. That was a special thing for me. I got to get involved with that. I was the coordinator for March Madness at Van Gordon. And uniquely, when I called over to Liberty Early Childhood, Carrie Montgomery said they didn't have one. No one had volunteered. So I took on Liberty too. I think it was important for those kids to have that experience. I've also volunteered at the Butler County East YMCA as a coach, and I've also spent time on their sports advisory committee. That was something I helped them establish. As far as my experience, I think the best experience that I've had is as a clinical nurse manager in a local hospital. Definitely over the last 2 years, we've seen everything. And as a manager, you work together with the other managers to develop a mission and a plan. We all have to agree. Some of us don't always agree on the way to do things, but we work it out. And through this pandemic, we've been able to really, work with less and have more thrown at us than ever. And we've been very successful, I think, in getting through this. So I think as a clinical nurse manager, certainly gives me a good experience for this position. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to all the candidates. Before we move on to specific policy issues, I do want to ask quickly, just a very practical question related to being an elected official in a local community. So you are elected by the community, and you are there in some sense to represent the views of your constituents. So what do you plan to do as a board member to make sure you have a good finger on the pulse of the community, not just those who agree with you or those who support you in an election, but every person who lives in the Lakota School District? And why don't we go back to the original alphabetical order for that? How's that sound? It's easier for me to keep track. So could we start with Mr. Howdy? Oh, and this is 30 seconds, maybe. Yeah, just a brief. How do you keep in touch with everybody?
How do you keep it? Could you repeat the question because it's not really clear for me?
Sure. Yeah, I'm basically asking if you're on the school board, if you're representing the views of the community, how do you know what the views of the community are? How do you plan to figure that out ultimately? How do you know what the people out in the district are thinking?
Okay, that's a very good question. I believe that in every community, it is easy for you to access the community through the social media. You look at what everybody is saying and because it's a general situation, people are talking, and that is how you gather your information. And you also ask questions, ask community members, what is in your heart regarding this situation, so that I know how to represent you well on the board.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Bodie?
I do like what Isaac said by asking questions and listening. I will be participating in school events. I will also be volunteering in the community as well, not just on the school board. And I also like that there are options of coffee chats that people can feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns. And I'm also involved in several organizations where I can receive feedback and questions and have open conversation regarding concerns from the community.
Needed to unmute myself. Sorry. Thank you. Ms. Casper?
The best way to know what the community is thinking is to get involved. We have a lot of avenues at the district to do that. We have the superintendent's coffee chats, we have community conversations, and we have a lot of events that board members can attend. I do a lot of community events where I can talk to people, hear what they have to say. Also, I'm open on my social media. As a board member, as elected official, you are not permitted to block people. So you do get a lot of feedback that way. So it's just always keeping the lines of communication open and using all of the district tools that we have for that purpose.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Shosei.
Basically everybody said what I was going to say. Social media, I think, talking to community members, Facebook page, like Kelly just mentioned. I mean, I think getting out there and talking to people, that's the best way to know. And, people do talk about it. So, and if you stay active that way, then you'll figure out what's going on. So then you can, base your decision on that.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Horton.
So I definitely am a believer in being out in the community and active. I've been active in the past decade for this. But I think that one of the challenges for our district is the size and the scale of it. We've got 17,000 students in our schools, and those families only represent 1/3 of the community that elects us. And so I think it's more important to, in addition to being out in the community and being active and volunteering in our schools, to also take part in the things that the district has set up, like the community conversations that Kelly mentioned. You have to rely on tools that will elicit feedbacks from all pockets of the community and bring it to us in a way that is actionable and be able to be digested and shared broadly with the rest of the board, with Mr. Miller, with Mrs. Logan, because it's very easy to sit at the soccer fields and think this is Lakota. But when you go into some of the other populations of the district, especially the ones that aren't in our schools, you need to understand the different concerns. And I think in the past 18 months, COVID has really impacted the district's ability to go out and do that work. And so I'm excited as we move forward to see those community conversations come back into play and better outreach to all the populations of the district.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Loges.
Yeah, hi. First, I think listening actively is important. You can't have a preconceived idea of what your constituents are saying. So listening, I think I would have an open door policy that would include social media. I've already started to dabble in that, and I've heard back things like maybe Kelly was referring to is you hear just about everything, but I want to hear that. And I'm sure people think I'm ignoring it. I'm not. I'm listening to that. I may not always give feedback on it, but certainly listening, having an open door policy. Being out, asking questions. I know I've already heard some questions or asked some questions and heard back from a previous DPC member that they were interested to hear about the schools again, like what we're doing to update them. So that's one thing I've already heard and something that I'll probably bring forward again.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Pearl.
I think the best school board members, and I've learned this, are the most engaged board members, engaged with the entire community. It's a large community, so that's very difficult, but I think we have to get out of our comfort zones and go and meet people that are different from ourselves, people that have different views from us. If I'm a school board member and I have kids in the district, it's important that, yes, I talk to those other parents and families who have kids in the district, but also those families who don't, and find out what they're thinking and let them know what's going on. So we have to be totally engaged and personable, allow people to come and ask us questions and not be so quick to take things personal, but handle things responsibly and professionally. But the best board members are the most engaged board members. And so I would continue to be engaging with the entire population of our district the very best I can, aside from, along with the social media opportunities and so forth.
Thank you. Ms. Wells.
I really like this question. So for the last 2 years, I've actually utilized social media probably more than I ever have. What I did was along with other moms and other parents in the community, we created a group where parents could talk about different things. So one would be for the virtual learners. And just recently I created a group because what I saw was a need. With the shortage of bus drivers, I thought there has to be a way to bring the community together. And it may not be the answer to everyone's problems, but I really feel like it will be a great help, because when you start to see people talking, if they don't have a bus, they can reach out to the community. And then these parents, they get to know one another and they're solving each other's problems. It's really great to see everyone come together for the sake of the kids. So I think there's a lot of different ways, even outside of, getting out in the community, which I do that as well. But just all around being a person that people can communicate with.
Thank you very much. What I'd like to do now is turn us to more specific policy questions that may come before you as a member of the Board of Education. And there are lots of things to choose from here. So we'll kind of range pretty broadly here, but let me start by asking each of you about school safety issues. We've seen a lot of discussion about that around the country in recent years. Not talking specifically about COVID here, or we'll get to that, but I'm thinking more generally about the safe and secure environments in our schools. So let me just ask, could each of you talk about how you think we're doing in Lakota in terms of school safety, and should we do something different? Should we, for instance, or what should the policy, let me put that more broadly, what should the policies be here? Should we allow teachers and staff to carry firearms? Should we expand or reduce school resource officers? Metal detectors in schools, drug testing, that whole range of things. Where do you think we are in Lakota? And yeah, what's your idea of where we ought to go in the future? And could we start, could we start with Ms. Casper and then move through the alphabet that way? And this is kind of a big question too. So kind of a 2-minute question. Thanks.
Thanks for starting with me, John. I appreciate that. In Lakota, we take safety obviously very seriously. Over the last 4 years, we've done a lot of upgrades. We have added a school resource officer on every campus. We have instituted the Raptor system, which is a check and balance system as people sign in with identification. If anybody has volunteered in a building, you've had to go through the Raptor process. We have put barricades in all of our doors so that in the case of an active shooter, that students and the teacher know what to do. But it's more than that. It is addressing the mental health issues. It's addressing what Hope Squad addresses with the peer-to-peer suicide. It's all of the education piece as well as the physical piece. I personally do not believe we should arm teachers. We have had many active shooter drills that the board has been able to attend, and law enforcement officers will tell you that they are sometimes unsure of where the gunshot is coming from. You put a gun in the teacher's hand in kindergarten and you have a whole classroom full of kindergartners that are now even more afraid than they were before. I think you have to realize that there's more to the safety of our schools besides the physical things that you can do. And it's the training and it's the teaching and it's the mental health awareness that all goes hand in hand together.
Thank you. Ms. Shosei.
Sorry, a minute for unmuting it. So at this point, I don't believe that we need to arm our teachers. I believe, just like Kelly said, there's an armed and trained officer in every building. We're doing Alice drills. We have ID checked in the Raptor ID. And every door is locked through the building. So the only way for anybody to enter would be through the front doors, and those are locked. So they have to buzz you in. So at this time, I don't believe that it would be necessary to arm the teachers.
All right, thank you, Mr. Horton.
Yes, so Kelly and Karen have mentioned a lot of the advances that the district has done. And I remember a time when we didn't have secure entryways into 14 of our buildings. And Kelly led a lot of the work there on securing the levee that paid to have that remedied. So I've been pleased to see the advancement that the district has done. And it seems indicative, and the feedback that we're getting is that we're on a pretty good track. I agree with Kelly that the opportunity that we have the most for, and I think it's even more important now given COVID, is how do we make sure that we're in touch with students and their emotional needs and what they're going through, and identifying dangers earlier rather than later. I also appreciate Mr. Vogelstein's work in collaborating with the Department of Homeland Security to have broader inter-district trainings and support for how we develop safety. But let me be clear, I am not in favor of teachers being armed. And there's a lot of debate around this, but where I stand on this is that our teachers are tasked enough. We want them, they are the single biggest determinant of our educational outcome of our students, and they need to be focused solely on educating those students. And I think it's tragic to try to ask any teacher, no matter how trained, to have to support two objectives at the same time. And that's when accidents happen. And so with SROs in every building, I think we've got the security in place, and you're just inviting accidents to happen by potentially arming teachers. I would be forever against teachers being armed in Lakota. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Logis.
So I want to just say that this is a very important topic for me. This is something that I would probably want to review if I was on the school board, is to look at our all of our plans in our schools, because this is very important. Structurally, I would like to look at any improvements. I love that the resource officers are at the schools now. I think that is extremely important to our children's safety. I do worry at times that maybe we're just getting lucky. There's definitely been a lot of improvements over the years that I've seen. I'm not sure if I'm where, or if we are where I would like us to be. I would not rule out a plan, a well thought out plan for certain teachers, or that opportunity to occur. That's not something I would just go into saying, no, I would never consider it. It would certainly have to be a well thought out plan, and people would have to volunteer. Certainly, I would never expect anybody to do something like that that would not, approve. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pearl.
I'll start by saying I'm against teachers being armed in the schools. I think we are fortunate to have the relationship with the Westchester Police Department and Hamilton County Sheriff's Department to have adequate security on each and every campus that we have, and we're fortunate for that. I remember too, like Doug had too, that when you could just walk into the school, you still had to sign in, but unfortunately, it was necessary to lock all the doors. And I think it's kudos to Kelly and past board members and current board members who made that shift for safety. It had to be a priority, and it still is a priority. And aside from all the things that we have done to ensure our kids and our children's safety, and our teachers and our staff safety, again, I think we have to look at the entire kid. And that's where it goes beyond just math, science, reading, and history. We have to really serve the entire kid, making sure that they are healthy, not just physically, but mentally, and hopefully prevent some of these tragedies from happening in our district, like we've seen in other districts. And the way we do that is by, having the Hope Squad, having programs like that would help our kids in that way, so that we can prevent these tragedies from happening.
Thank you, Ms. Wells.
Thank you. I don't believe that my personal opinion on the topic of arming teachers is actually important. What I think is important is, if that was to be a topic that was brought up, that like Mr. Lowe just said, that there was a well thought out plan put into place before it would even come anywhere near a vote. I do want to say, if I was on the board, I would very much like to thoroughly look through some of the safety plans for the kids and for the teachers. Some of the little kids that I know, they have brought up different questions about when they feel like they don't have a plan, or the places that they don't feel the safest. And I think that there's some things that need to be revisited, but there are a lot of things already in place that have been extremely helpful. The resource officers are great. I wouldn't be opposed to expanding resource officers as well, if that was something that was possible. Because I think we have to understand too, there are already guns in the school. We just want to make sure that the people who have them are extremely trained, and they have the knowledge, and they don't have to worry about having a classroom full of kids, in order to feel safe. Also, I think that some of the areas that we could improve is maybe, the general areas where the kids are, such as the cafeteria or the gyms, the places that are more open. I think some of those areas, the kids, whenever they have to go through these trainings and these drills, they realize, well, wait, what if we're in this room and we don't know what to do? And I think that needs to be made very clear to them. Okay, wait, you're safe here, and this is the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Returning to the top of the alphabet, Mr. Howdy.
Thank you. Student safety is very, very critical to me. And I believe that we need to have a very clear-cut policies to help and make sure that our kids feel safe at school. This very issue of teachers being allowed to have guns, I've never thought of it that much, but I think it's something that I'm going to give it a deep thought. If it is possible that we have some teachers that are trained, not every teacher, at least it will help in case there's an active shooter. We know that that can also help before our officers get to that. That's my thought, which I have not yet concluded, but it's one of the areas I am thinking towards. But one thing I also want us to look at critically is the students themselves. What are we doing that would lead a child to pick up a gun and shoot somebody? We need to look at our children seriously. Are we having things that distract them, removing hope out of their lives? You see, the reason why somebody would take a gun and shoot somebody is because probably they don't see a future for themselves. And because of that, they want to also destroy other people's future. So my thing here is that we should take it very, very serious in ensuring that our kids are getting the attention they deserve and ensure that they have the hope. They believe that they can be somebody in the future. So if we focus on those kids, definitely active shooting in schools will be reduced. So that's my take on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Bodie.
So at first, our goal as a school board is to, we want every student to feel safe and protected in our school system. I know we have a good anti-bullying program in place, and that's extremely important, but we want to make sure that we're adhering to the anti-bullying policies. I do like that you have the doors that are secure and the school resource officers. I've also noticed a presence at the games on campus, and that's great as well. I think that the Second Amendment is a very important amendment, and I would support teachers who would want to carry in schools with certain stipulations regarding active shooter training, mandatory weapon safety courses, logging in so many hours with a small arms coach, and a few others. This is a huge responsibility, and we need to ensure that our teachers have the proper training in order to keep our students safe, our students and schools safe, staff safe. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me shift us to a different topic. It's the nature of these kinds of events, ultimately, that we sort of hop around from topic to topic. The thought exchange questions showed that there is a lot of interest in our community related to the district's efforts to promote diversity, inclusion, and equity, and its efforts to create and maintain a learning and working environment in which all of our students and staff and community members in the buildings feel valued, they feel safe, feel welcomed. These issues are obviously getting a lot of attention here in our community in Columbus right now in the state legislature and throughout the nation. So I'd really like to ask a couple of different questions here, and I'd really like you to be specific in your responses if you can. First of all, what role, if any, do you believe our public schools have to play? What role should be played by the public schools in teaching children about diversity in American society, about tolerance and acceptance of those different from ourselves, on the teaching side, I guess is what I'm asking there. And more generally, what policies and programs, if any, do you think should be in place in Lakota at the building level and/or district-wide regarding, for instance, support of diversity-focused student organizations, access to bathrooms and other school facilities, and maybe professional development for teachers and staff on topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion? What do you think we should be doing ultimately in this arena? Are we doing enough? Are we doing too much? Not enough? Generally, what do you think? And that's a big question, obviously. So please take up to a couple of minutes to share your thoughts on that. And if we could start with Mr. Logis and sort of work through alphabetically that way. Thank you.
So I think this is a quick answer for me. I don't think we need it. I think that if you just treat everybody with respect, that should be good enough. I was kind of shocked that we count, I think at the board meeting the other night, they said we've gone from 30% to 38% diversity. And I thought, why does it matter? We're here in a school district. We should treat everyone with respect. As far as I think you talked about who uses which bathroom and those kind of things, I think a lot of that just isn't something the school board needs to be focused on. We need to ensure that kids are A, safe, B, learning and getting on with their education and moving forward with that. So I think that was the simple answer for me.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pearl?
The reality is our school is a microcosm of the real world. Our schools, when we bring all our different kids together, all 37% of our different backgrounds and ethnicities together, that's what it's going to be when our kids get out in the real world. So therefore, it is imperative that we embrace our diversity. And what I mean specifically about that is that we do emphasize and teach the importance of respect, because not everybody's going to get it. And a teacher is left to deal with two kids who have a difference among each other because of their differences. The teacher needs to be developed or taught or trained of how to deal with that. And so it becomes, whether or not we like it or not, it becomes the teacher, it becomes the school's responsibility to teach those important characteristics for our children, because in the real world, they're going to face those same differences. That's why I appreciate our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary that we empower our teachers. Listen, the district is 37% diverse, and it's going to continue to grow more diverse. And we need to embrace that. We can't run from, we can't act like it's not going to happen. We have to embrace it, and embrace it with joy, because that's going to be the strength of our district. Not everybody learns the same. People coming in from our district, from other communities and other school districts, they may or may not be able to, they may not be where they are. So what do teachers do to teach to the entire class? Not just those that can, but what about those who struggle? And so it's important that we do what we can to support, so that every single kid, that's my priority. I want to make sure that every single kid, no matter what, has the opportunity to succeed, to first get a quality education, first and foremost. But the way they do that is by us demonstrating, because a confident kid, a resilient kid, can take part in their own learning and be who God has created them to be. And we want to create that here in Lakota. And I think it's wonderful that we are so diverse. And I think we got to embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wells.
Okay, first, as far as I know, the big issue right now is critical race theory, or in Lakota, it's culturally responsive teaching. I believe that the administration needs to set very clear guidelines for the teachers to follow. I also believe that these words, they need to be defined on a level to where everyone understands when you say diversity, inclusion, and equity, what does that mean? Because to each person, it can mean something different. So I believe that the administration, it's their responsibility to set the guidelines for the teachers to follow. I think that the reason that these words need to be defined is because if you don't define them, you leave too much room for personal bias to enter the classroom. And our children, they need to be free to think critically and decide for themselves how they feel about these topics. And if you have a good teacher who can teach without their own personal bias, I believe that opens the door for the kids to learn about one another in a respectful and kind fashion. This doesn't mean either that I only want one side of the story told. As a matter of fact, that's why I think it's more important. If there is a discussion in the classroom, and I think that we'll probably see with some of the older kids, they may be more likely to discuss the social justice issues, but we want to have our teachers fully prepared and capable of handling this discussion from multiple perspectives, as opposed to just one. No child should ever leave the classroom feeling like their skin color, their religion, or their nationality should be a hindrance to them achieving their dreams. And I think we have to make sure that what we're doing isn't just putting a system in place, but we want to make sure that it's a culturally responsible program. And I know that some of the trainings that I've seen come from Lakotas for the teachers, it's not culturally responsible. And I think it's really important to address that and possibly find a different way to go about it. Right now, I don't think it's working. I think it's the cause of a lot of the division.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Audi.
Okay, yeah, this is very, very important. This question is very, very important to me. I believe that no child should be left behind. Every child should be treated equal. There's nothing like equity. Equal. Every child should be treated equal. I believe that right now, what is going on in our schools is not helping us. Instead, it's dividing these children. Our kids don't know whether one is black or white. Kids, if you put them together in a room, within 10 to 15 minutes, you see them find something, they will find something that is common for them to play with. And for us to start teaching a child that you are this race and you are this race, as far as I know and I believe, it is not right. It is dividing our country. America is a melting pot. People come from all over the world because of the opportunities that is here. I think we are doing too much. I was able to lay my hands on teachers development training for 2021. When I watched it, I wept as a person of color because the focus is dividing the kids. Telling one is a victim or the other an oppressor or being oppressed. All these are taught in our schools and it's not helping our kids at all in our grades. Instead, it's dividing us. My thing is that we should focus on the kids, teach them life history, the good and the bad, the American history, everything that has happened in the past. We need to learn it, but we shouldn't show that we are different based on our races. We shouldn't be judged by the content, by our races, but rather by the content of our character. So I believe right now we're doing more than is expected because it's creating division in our among our children. That's my take on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Bodie.
First, I want to say that I want every student to feel safe. So my question is, when we are focusing on the minority, who are we leaving out? I do know also that in 2016, we created gender neutral bathrooms for everyone that wants privacy, including the transgender community. But when we are in school, we need to provide, I believe we need to provide equal opportunity and also to teach our kids to love one another. That's what we've been taught growing up. That's what we're told in the Bible. We need to focus on critical thinking, not critical race theory. We need to focus on the students' academics instead of these ideologies that are being implemented. We want to create successful adults. And let me tell you something, as a manager in business, I'm not looking at someone's sexual preference, their size, their ethnicity. I am looking for qualified individuals who show up to work on time, who work hard, who have integrity, and are knowledgeable. And that's what we should be teaching our students, how to perform in the adult world, you know, and work hard. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Casper.
This question comes up a lot. We do have a diverse population, 38%, 37%. And Mr. Loges, I agree with you. If everybody treated each other with respect, we would not have to worry about anything. Unfortunately, that's not happening in our schools. There are groups of kids who feel marginalized. There are groups of kids who don't feel included. It is our responsibility to make sure we meet kids where they are. And that means we teach every child and not just the ones where it's convenient. We have kids who come to school after having put a third grader and a fourth grader on the bus, high school kids. We have to understand what their background is and where they're coming from in order to be able to teach them. You can't just open a book and teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's not education today. It's not the education of the future. As far as high school kids and having conversations, they're already having these conversations about world events. And why not have them in a classroom setting where they can grapple with the topic and be comfortable talking to each other with a teacher moderating? It doesn't mean that a teacher is giving their opinion. It doesn't mean that a teacher is giving their views. There's a lot of differences in kids' backgrounds and where they come from, and we have to be able to make sure that a teacher is equipped with all of the tools they need to teach every single student, all 17,000 students.
Thank you. Ms. Chaussee.
So I moved to Singapore when I was 8 years old in an international school where there was probably 25 kids per class, all from different countries, 25 different countries. Some speak English, some don't, some are here, some are from there. I was never taught how to treat anybody differently. We all had to treat each other with respect. That's what it should come down to. I think if we teach our kids to treat each other as you'd want to be treated, then there shouldn't be an issue. And I realize that we're all parents, we're all fighting for our kids. We all want what's right for our kids. And we want our kids to be the best that they can be. But at the same time, I don't think that, having a special curriculum that's teaching them a divisive curriculum is not going to help anybody. If we just stick to, treat everybody with respect and dignity, then I don't think we need to have a different curriculum than that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Horton.
So I appreciate the responses from the candidates that are talking about respect and the golden rule, and I wish that were enough. But the reality for our students, this issue is very important. The reality for our students is that in Ohio, Ohio educators are 3 times more likely to expel Black students than any other population. In Ohio, Blacks are 3 times more likely to be classified as special education due to emotional disturbances. They're overrepresented, and those directly tie to their likelihood of succeeding in education and in life beyond. And so while it's nice to say it's not needed because we can just be respectful, the reality that our students in our district are seeing is a very different reality than that. And so I think the efforts by Lodi and Elgin Card to help teach and equip our teachers to understand the cultural backgrounds that they are interfacing with, to be equipped with the tools on how to manage this kind of situation, helps our students and their outcome. When it comes to LGBTQ, why are they so significantly higher suicide rate than the rest of our students? They're not seeing the respect. They're not seeing the golden rule. They're not feeling that they can come to school as their full selves. And that's not right. I think we need to embrace everybody with love. And I think as the dialogues in this community have gotten more and more vociferous and more alarming, I think it sends a message to the students in our schools that they're not necessarily supported, because it can just be respect. And I think it's important for board members to be very clear to our populations, whether it's diversity, whether it's LGBTQ, that we have their back and that we're going to support them, despite what charges are being leveled by the community broader. I think the district has been very transparent with what they've done to try to protect our populations and equip them for success. But I do believe there's effort needed to help codify some of the more specifics. I think we've been a little bit not as upfront as we need to celebrate the diversity and make sure that it's protected. And I think the past 6 months have really shown that it's under attack. And I would like, as a board member, to be able to help do that and provide that support for our students and populations.
Thank you very much. And we're beginning to run short on time, but there are two issues in particular that I'd like to address before we go to closing statements, because there was a lot of interest in the thought exchange and about these. One is curriculum, and we've already touched on curriculum in various ways here, but a whole lot of the questions that we got from Lakota residents expressed specific concerns about the Lakota curriculum as it currently stands. So for instance, some folks expressed concerns that the district in recent years has moved too far in the direction of STEM or STEAM, and the arts, humanities, social studies, physical education, those are being neglected. So there's that concern that's been addressed. Some have called for more attention to students who are not planning to go to attend college. And what about students? Should we be doing more for vocational training and sort of preparing people for post-high school careers? And as has already come up a couple of times, there's been a lot of discussion about the way that our public schools generally teach about American history, teach about the rights and responsibilities of citizens in a democracy, sort of what should be taught about social issues, social concerns, that kind of thing. So given all that, and that's sort of wide open there in that sense, I'd like each of you to talk about, and this is a 2-minute one clearly, are there particular areas in which you think our district is doing an especially good job in terms of curriculum and emphasis and on the subjects and topics being taught? Are there particular issues or topics that you think should not be taught in the public schools? For instance, are there some topics in American history that ought to be off limits or ought to be sharply constrained in how they're taught? So there's that question. There's also then the question about, and this relates directly to being a board member, who decides this? Who is the proper decision-making body here? And this is playing out in real time in Ohio. We have boards of education weighing in on curriculum, which is the traditional place where curriculum is decided, but we have the state legislature currently considering several bills that would restrict local school districts in curricular decisions in various ways. And also there's a traditional role of the individual teacher, the curriculum experts who are employed by the district. Decisions are being made in lots of places about this. So that's an enormous question, but it's really a 2-part question. What should we be teaching? Are we doing a good job teaching what we ought to be teaching? And please be specific there. And secondly, who should decide this? Is it the board? Is it Columbia? Is it the state legislature? Is it the central office staff? Who? And like I said, really big question, big, easy question, right? So if we could sort of, that's a 2-minute one. Could we start sort of at the end of the alphabet this time with Ms. Wells, and then we'll sort of go around. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I think the number one goal of education is to make sure that each and every child that walks through the doors of the school leaves better than they walked in, with more knowledge, with more understanding of their peers, a greater hope for their future. I do believe that we are focusing on some of the social justice issues more than we maybe need to right now, because I don't see, I'm not saying that there are not children who have it more difficult, and you do have to have a special care taken for those kids. And I do think that it's good that the teachers are aware of their students' background and maybe the difficulties or struggles or challenges they might have, because it does help. But I also want to say that while we're focusing on some of these social justice issues, we're forgetting about some of the students with special needs and the IEPs and the 504s. And I've talked to so many parents who have had to fight and use advocates just to get their kids the help that they need. So I think before we go too deeply into the social justice topics and whatever funding is going to that, we need to make sure that these kids who deserve and need an education that are coming to the schools with special needs are also addressed. I know you said this was a big, easy question, but it's not that easy. So I think what the second part of your question, I'm sorry. Do I have time?
Oh, absolutely. And I was
Okay.
being facetious. It's not at all an easy question. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and you have as much time as you'd like for that. Yeah. The second part of the question is who decides? Is this,
Oh,
and it's really asking, is this the Lakota Board of Education's responsibility to decide this? Or do you think this is something that ought to be decided in Columbus or ought to be decided by the superintendent and the curriculum staff or individual teachers? Or it's really quite like, yeah, what is the board's
Right.
role in deciding these things?
I do believe that it should be the board's role to oversee, and I'm talking about the local school boards. I'm very much for local control over school districts. I don't believe that the state should be as involved as what they are. If there are dangerous topics or topics that are controversial, I think that those specific curriculum pieces need to be passed through the board, and the board should be voting on those in public, because you are going to run into the issues that we're all running into now. And that's that the parents in the community, we don't feel like the school boards are being very transparent, because until your kid comes home from school with some controversial topic in their homework, you don't even know that it's happening. And it seems like sometimes the school board or maybe the superintendent is even unaware, because the teachers, and I'm not saying to take control away from the teachers, but when it comes to these specific topics or social justice issues, I do believe that we need to take extra care and have those pass through a certain channel and have the school board approve and vote on them.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Audi.
Yes. I believe that we should involve our kids in their education, especially when they get to the age where they begin to show their interest in what they want to be in their life. It's not every kid that wants to go to college. Some may want to, like, after high school, take up some technical job or some jobs that just need only K-12 education. So it's critical that we involve them at a certain age, what they want to do in their life. So I believe that the curriculum should be decided by the board, but in conjunction with specialists in the schools, because I believe we have people that understand the curriculum. We should involve them, but the board should at the end vote on that. I believe that there's too much social justice being brought into the schools, because it's distracting our kids. It's creating division in them. Some of them never thought of that until they are taught. Kids don't know anything different. They know nothing about race until an adult teach them that there's something like race or differences. So we have too much social justice being thrown at our kids in the schools. I believe that we should focus on equality, not equity. Equality means that every child has equal opportunity. And if we encourage them to focus on their life and what they want to do in their life without telling one that you cannot succeed because of where you come from or the color of your skin, or you are oppressed or an oppressor. If we take that off the school and let these kids focus on education, math, English, language arts, science, and history, the grades are going to be better. So I believe that that's what we need to focus on instead of social justice. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Bodie.
So, critical race theory is currently in our schools, and it's divisive and hateful. And while we are teaching this ideology, our SAT scores are down compared to the qualifying average SAT score for college. So we need to make sure that we're focusing on equal opportunity. We are focusing on, I do like the vocational training. I don't think everyone is meant for college or needs to go to college. And I think we do have some opportunity there to provide more information to parents about this. We definitely need to teach the truth in our history. We need to teach the good and the bad. I 100% agree with that. I feel that 1776 is a good start. It teaches the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we need to learn from our mistakes. So if we try to erase our mistakes, how are we going to learn from them in the future if we erase them? And right now, our children are very impressionable. And if we're teaching them to focus on color right now, they're going to focus on that all their lives. They're not going to grow out of that because we are leaving this impression on them to focus on the color of someone's skin and to put them in the group. So again, we should focus on academics, equal opportunity. And I do like that we expanded the gifted program. I just learned that on Monday, and I think that is absolutely wonderful, and that we are providing more opportunities in that area as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Casper?
Okay, this is an easy question. Not. As far as things that I think we're doing well, we realize that not everybody is geared towards college. So when Mr. Miller got here 4 years ago, he implemented the 4 E's. So we not only focus on education, but we focus on entrepreneurship, enrollment, which is college, the enlistment in the military, and entrepreneurship. There was 2 years ago, when we were still allowed to have things at school, there was a big day at East where over 104 career people came to East, and the students had a chance to rotate and see 3 or 4 different professions, everything from an embalmer to a tax accountant to the military. It exposes them to things other than college. And so we realize that that has been a big step. Butler Tech, we have a lot of Butler Tech programs within our building, as well as Butler Tech children that go to Butler Tech campuses. Butler Tech is one of our greatest assets. Unfortunately, they are crowded all the time, so it's very hard to get into those schools. As far as curriculum, ODE, Department of Education, sets the standards, and we have a curriculum department, a great curriculum department that figures out the best way to get those standards into our curriculum. Legislators have no business setting curriculum or what we can and cannot teach. That's the job of the curriculum department and the school district. The board can adopt curriculum, but we need to keep our hands out of the day-to-day part of it. And that's why we hire the people that we hire. That's where it becomes a management decision, and we are not management, we are governance. As far as social justice, the world we live in has these issues going on. Why not take the time to let the kids in a safe environment discuss these issues and understand these issues and understand that they agree to disagree? There's no better way to teach a child about social justice than to have them have a discussion with their peers in a classroom. It's happening anyway, so we might as well facilitate it.
Thank you. Ms. Shosei?
So I believe that the local board should decide on curriculum. I do not believe this should be done at a state level. I also believe that we should be spending money on we should not be spending money on all these critical race theory and other programs that are not doing any good to our children. So if we're going to get, if we're not going to concentrate on physical education and art, like we need to be concentrating on those things instead of worrying about social issues. And I get our social justice issues. I get what Kelly said, it's happening and kids need to talk about it, but it's a political agenda on either side. I don't think this needs to be something that's discussed by teachers at school. I think that's a parent's choice, because everybody's different. Therefore, we all have different values. We all have different morals. We're not all the same. So I think that if we stick to, math, science, language arts, and if we can better our art and physical education in our STEM program, that's fine. Vocational training, vocational school, I think that's great too, or even classes for prepping for college. But I don't think that social issues should be CRT or any of those things should be in our schools.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Horton?
So, Dr. Forn, I think you said we had 2 days to answer all the questions that you asked in this. So I think that's what it would take, because there's a lot there, but there's a lot that I wanted to dig in on. So first off, I've been thrilled to see how far STEM has advanced in the 10 years that we've been in this district. All of the things like the Cyber Academy and the internships and the healthcare professionals career track, it's been super exciting to see. And I'm trying to get my daughter even more interested in it as a freshman at Lakota East. But I think the arts have trailed. And I remember in 2014 or something like that, the presentation that STEM was becoming STEAM and we'd embrace the arts. And what I hear from parents when I'm out in the community is, especially at the K-6 level, arts is not given the same seat at the table as science and math. And I think there's a big demand in how do we increase access and increase specials during the day for children in elementary school, increase access to arts. So that's something that I would definitely advocate for. And I think that's one of the primary roles of the board that we haven't talked about, is being an advocate for our district and making it a destination district. Secondly, I think when it comes to the state legislature, my observation as a parent here in Lakota is that the state legislature couldn't solve funding for the school districts that was ruled unconstitutional for over a decade. So the last thing I want is for the legislature to be wrapped up and slow moving on something as important and as impactful as the curriculum that determines the success of our students. So I believe that sits at the local school board, and I agree. The curriculum needs to integrate the standards. And I think all of the focus and the discussions that I've heard on critical race theory being taught in the district ignores the reality of what's in the curriculum, which is how are we meeting those standards. I am, critical of some of the areas that I think we still have opportunity to do better on. So it is true, Darby, that last year the district announced that they were expanding gifted services. But as somebody who was gifted all through school and with 2 children that are gifted, I think it's been a shame that only 25% of the gifted population have been getting services. And now that it's getting wider, that's great. But it should be in more subject areas beyond just ELA plus and math. Also, the state Board of Education released the Every Child Means Every Child report earlier this year in March or May, I believe it was, of this year, focusing in on special education and the educational outcome gaps that we have in special education here at Ohio. And I haven't seen a response from the school district on how are we matching up to those disparities. Currently in Ohio, 80% of special education kids, although the vast majority of them have the same cognitive ability as their peers, get passes on graduation requirements in order to graduate. Only 30% can pass the 3rd grade reading guarantee. And I think that's something that we need to address here in this district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Logis.
So first, I think the local Lakota district, the school board, with the community involvement, should set the curriculum. I'd like to see the state and federal government, for that matter, stay out of it. I definitely think a lot of the STEM program, I think science and math are a lot of our children's future, just with the way things are changing in business and science and all the jobs that are out there. I do love vocational training. I often recommend that to students to go into nursing or any of the other vocational schools. I definitely think that we need to have a diverse curriculum that is diverse in the fact that it needs to be diverse for our student needs. I would like to keep the politics out of our curriculum, which unfortunately I feel like is a lot of one-sided social justice issues. Let's see. As far as our teachers go, I'm a big proponent of our teachers. I think they get a lot of education and continuing education and masters. That's probably one reason earlier I didn't think they needed any additional training. They are skilled at their craft, and I think if sometimes we could get the curriculum department out of their way, they would be able to perform even better. Certainly with oversight and the board and Lakota curriculum priorities at hand. I also think history. Somebody spoke about this earlier. I think it's very important that we continue to learn our history so we don't repeat any of the mistakes that we've made in the past. I think that covers my answer.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Pearl.
I'll start with the question of who should, gauge the curriculum itself. From what I understand, the state sets the standards, as Kelly said, and then the board locally, the district decides then how to teach to those standards so that the district can reach those standards. And I think the board leans on the professionals, the experts, if you will, that are in the curriculum department, and Matt Miller and his team, to then go ahead and execute those plans. I appreciate what we've done utilizing the 4 E's. I think that's really important. Understanding that all kids are different. All kids may not want to go to college. They may want to go into the military. They may want to do other things, and we want to support them in that effort. Really, what I want to focus on is a couple things. One, the district is not teaching critical race theory. I want to be clear about that. We are not teaching critical race theory. However, because our district is so diverse, we embrace our diversity. And so to use words like diversity, inclusion, and equity, those are not bad words. Those are great words. And for a person of color like myself, a person who was born with his left hand, when I hear those words, I feel like I belong here. When we say we don't want to talk about these things, that doesn't make me feel belong. We have a lot of young people who are in that boat, and we want them at the table. Yeah, we want to treat everybody equally, but the reality is that the race doesn't start equal. There are some who are further ahead than others. And what we want to do is support both. I'm not saying take anything away from those who are advanced. What I'm saying is let's broaden what we are able to provide, the resources, so that every one of our kids can succeed and take part in the after graduation life that they choose to. What we want them to do is leave here prepared for life. And that's what we want to do. Lastly, regarding social justice. If you're going to teach history, real history, as Darby said, the good, the bad, and ugly, you're going to have talks about diversity. You can't help it. You're going to have those talks. And then, like Kelly said, I think the classroom is a wonderful opportunity because the kids are talking about it anyway. They're getting it off of social media and they're forming opinions and thoughts. And I think it's a wonderful idea to implement some of those opportunities like free writing to let kids talk about it. Maybe you do have a conversation about the latest news reports that are coming out about this issue or that issue. There's nothing wrong with that if done in the right way. And we want to equip our teachers to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are so many other issues we could talk about, but we are out of time, basically. So what I'd like to do at this point is move us to closing statements, if I can. And as we talked about at the beginning, these are 1 minute in length, and under the rules, we'll go in reverse alphabetical order, starting with Ms. Wells. So if you can take it from there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I want to start off by saying that if you want to be exceptional, you have to be the exception. I believe that at Lakota, we need to set standards, and we need to set high standards. We need to stand out in the way that we treat everyone, from our teachers to our students, regardless of race, religion, sex, our support staff, our bus drivers, our parents, community members. We need to set the standard that we are Lakota and we are the best, and we treat everyone equally, and we treat everyone as best as we possibly can. I am not opposed to having other conversations to find the best ways to do that. I just think that we need to be careful that we're not being exclusive in the name of inclusivity. I would love to see our school district lead the way, not just on uniting all of our children, but actually on uniting all of the parents in the community together. There's a lot of division, and I think we have a lot of work to do. I think it's going to be a difficult job, but it's not impossible. And anything worth having doesn't come easy. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm sure everyone else feels the same. I'm more than willing to put in the work on the Lakota School Board to try and do that, if you all would vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearl.
Thank you so much, Dr. Foreign, Lakota DPC, and the Westchester Chamber for hosting us tonight. I was appointed just over a year ago, as I stated in my opening, and it was a unanimous decision. One of the reasons why I was told that I was selected is because I used words like we instead of I or you. I look at this as a team effort. It's going to take all of us to continue to grow Lakota to make greater than it already is. And that's what I want to do as a board member. I hope tonight that you found me to be passionate. transparent. I'm not a politician by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm passionate about kids and all kids. And I want to represent, whether you live in Fort Bridges or whether you live in Lakota Point, I want to support you and your child's efforts to be the best that they can be, no matter what. I still believe in the We Are Lakota. I still believe in we. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Logis.
Okay, so just want to reiterate, I am a proud Lakota dad. I'm not a politician. I am a coach. I'm a nurse. I'm a previous small business owner. I'm a passionate, very passionate supporter of young people's success. And I appreciate Mr. Pearl. I think that's one of the things that sets me, maybe not sets me apart, but that really drives me to do this. People have asked me, why are you putting yourself through this? And I said, it's because I care so much about these young people. I believe in traditional values, fiscal responsibility, equal opportunity, accountability, and transparency. I believe Lakota parents, teachers, coaches, and students are what makes the Lakota School District great. If elected again, I promise to advocate for all of our students. I think what we need to move on from now is this COVID mess. It's no longer a pandemic, it's an endemic, and we need to start to focus on our future and kind of quit fighting about this and just move on. Let's start making Lakota, just let's make it great.
Thank you. Mr. Horton.
Thank you, John, for moderating tonight. Appreciate the questions. As tremendously packed as they were, I wish we had more time to delve deeper into them. But I also want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight, taking time to, I celebrate your passion and your interest in the district, and I share it with you. Tonight, we've heard a lot from all of the candidates. There's a lot of us up here, and you've heard a lot of agendas, and you've heard some attacks and some things, a lot of what people want to change about the district. But tonight, I think I've shown to you that I don't want to change Lakota. I want to support it. I want to grow Lakota. I don't want to attack it. And so with my decade of experience at P&G and leading large organizations, and the decade that I've spent in the schools, volunteering with the staff, with our teachers, with our administrators, the schools that my kids attend and have attended for their entire career, I think I've shown that I understand what the district is truly facing and that I have ideas on how to help do that. So ultimately, I want to remind everybody that I stand for students, teachers, and taxpayers. And on November 2nd, I would appreciate your vote for Lakota School Board. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Jose.
I guess this brings me back to what I said at the beginning. If we all follow the golden rule, we will all be better for it. I want to unite our community, our parents, and our students. We're all, well, not the students, but we're all moms and dads fighting for our kids, a different fight. But that should unite us. And I think that's what we need. We need unity desperately. I want to be a part of the solution. I want our kids to be proud of the community they come from. And if you don't want a political agenda on the Lakota School Board, then vote for me on November 2nd. Thank you. And I forgot to say this. I wanted to thank everybody tonight for parents, the DPC, and Miami University. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Casper.
I also want to thank all the partners who provided this opportunity for us to speak tonight. I've spent time as an educator, a volunteer, and now as a 4-year board member of Lakota Board of Education. I am very proud of the things our district has accomplished during my time on the board. We have increased opportunities for students while still being good stewards of our taxpayers' money. Our current surplus is greater than we have ever had in the history of our district. But more than anything, I want to see the great opportunities that we provide to all Lakota students continue and increase. I want the focus of our board and our administrative team to remain on doing all that we can to ensure that our students receive the highest quality of education that we can provide in a fiscally responsible manner. Every student who walks the doors of our 23 school buildings deserves that. It may sound simple, but it has been and always will be my motivation for being a board member. Again, I am Kelly Casper, and I would greatly appreciate your support to keep Lakota moving in the right direction this November.
Thank you. Mrs. Bodie.
Thank you, John, for being our host and moderating. And those were some loaded questions, but I appreciate the time you gave us to answer them, and I hope I did it adequately. So what I would like to say is that for the candidates that are saying nothing needs to change and that they are fine how they are, then once in position, they're going to continue to adopt divisive ideology and mandates coming down from Washington, D.C. and Columbus. The school board is the last line of defense for students' academic careers and personal well-being. Anyone who watches the news gets it, and they see the problems facing our students today. I am part of the solution. I will stand up for our children if you elect me, and I will work hard with integrity, transparency, and an unwavering focus on our students' academic achievements. I will not stand for our children's future to be compromised. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Audi.
Thank you. I want to use this opportunity to thank Miami University and DPC for setting up this opportunity for us to address every community member, taxpayers, parents, to hear us speak. I want to say here today that as an immigrant, I came from a foreign country. I see where our schools are going to right now. I know what I saw when I came and where we are right now. We need this, our kids need help, and I am prepared. I have, based on my previous experience, training 3 kids that graduated in this school district. Compare where we used to be and where we are now. We need help. I need you to vote for me. I have passion for kids. I have experience even mentoring prisoners and inmates. I know what they've told me several things that have the opportunities they never had even in schools. Today, we need to stay united and against ideologies that are dividing us, especially critical race theory. Critical race theory is being taught in our schools. I have seen it. I have seen the last training, what was taught in our kids. The way it was presented made me weep. Vote for me. I'm going to ensure that all our kids receive the hope they need to succeed in life. Let's remove politics coming all the way from Washington, D.C., because most of the policies we have right now in our schools are being imposed. They're coming all the way from politicians. We need to stop them and focus on our kids and to ensure that our kids achieve, and we also focus redirect our financials to ensure that we don't spend more than we take in. Because the way we are going, I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Miller. If we don't work on it, we're going to start spending in deficit. We're going to be in deficit.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll have to close on that point. On behalf of my colleagues here at Miami University, our partners at the Lakota District Parent Council and the Westchester Liberty Chamber Alliance, I'd like to thank all of our candidates for joining us here tonight for this event to share their views and ideas. I'd also like to thank, in particular, Amanda Lehman, who's been my sort of behind the scenes person keeping our Zoom feed running, and also did an enormous amount of work to help set this up. I really appreciate that. And also Jeff Fair, who is sitting here right off camera as our timer person. So he's been very helpful there because, yeah, it allowed me to sort of focus on the questions. I really appreciate that. And especially I'd like to say thank you to all the folks who attended the forum today and also submitted the questions that showed both a lot of interest in this particular race and also a lot of community engagement on what's at stake. So thank you to everyone. And I would also invite anyone watching tonight. I realize tomorrow night we're up against a Bengals game, but I'm a Browns fan, so I could not care less about that. But I know a lot of people in the area do. But tomorrow night at the same time, we're having a similar event for the candidates running in Westchester Township and Liberty Township for the township trustees positions. And that's again on Zoom tomorrow night. And if you would like to join us for that, the login information is at the Westchester Liberty Chamber Alliance website and also at the Menard Family Center for Democracy website here at Miami. So with that said, thank you very much. And I wish everybody a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good luck.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.